All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Detroit Lions in today's video. We're going to talk about technically some bad news because it's in regards to Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. But then I want to switch it around a little bit and go through some good things because, at the end of the day, the Detroit Lions are 15-2, and you have your bye week right now before the divisional round of the playoffs. And I don't want to speculate on who you guys are going to play or not play or whatever because I don't think that stuff really matters. But right now, the Lions have their bye week. And so today's report was that defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is to interview with 4 teams. All right. And I got this excerpt. It's unclear the order of said interviews, but according to Ian Rappaport, Glenn will talk to the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, the Chicago Bears, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Per NFL rules, all right, these interviews must be done virtually at this point in the offseason. And I'm sure you guys have been seeing or hearing at least the Ben Johnson rumors as well, right? That's been, that was the talk of the town this-ish time last year. Was Ben Johnson was about to be the head coach for the Washington Commanders. Per reports, 3 teams, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, have requested an interview at this point, Tuesday, January 7th, with Ben Johnson. That said, Albert Breer suggested Johnson may only choose to interview with the Bears and the Patriots. And so, coordinators, losing and gaining coordinators, honestly, until I started making NFL YouTube videos, I'd never really thought of that too much. You know what I mean? Like I had never really thought about losing coordinators. I just was kind of unaware with that world. And now obviously, making NFL videos for the last 3 or 4 years now, it's crazy how much of a difference a Ben Johnson would make on this Detroit Lions team. And I want to talk about this a little bit, only a couple of minutes. But before you do, folks, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Detroit Lions content. We're posting this on Let's Talk Lions. I appreciate all your guys' love and support this entire season. I've always said I want to make pretty much daily content for the Detroit Lions. You guys just energize me. I love making Lions videos, even though I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm from Chicago. I'm an NFC North guy, and I love making videos like this. So thank you to everyone who is interested and watches these. Coordinators really suck. But all I just kind of want to say, and it's been my whole ethos for the Detroit Lions. Like technically, this is unfortunate news, but it's news we all kind of saw coming. Aaron Glenn, when I first started making Detroit Lions content a couple 2 years ago, was when you guys were like a 1-6 team, and you took down my Green Bay Packers, right? Twice actually. But the reason I started making Lions videos and pretty much NFL videos is because my Rodgers Packers lost to Aaron Glenn and the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff 2 years ago, and that was a crazy season for Detroit. You guys were like 3-6, and finished the season 9-8, and just barely missed the playoffs, right? Losing coordinators certainly sucks. The reason I brought that memory up is because at that point in time, most Lions, I'm not using air quotes necessarily, I just did, but a lot of Lions fans were not huge on Aaron Glenn. And Ben Johnson, completely different situation. But my point is, teams lose coordinators. Good coaches hire good coaches, and thankfully Dan Campbell hired Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. And even if they ultimately end up losing both of these two coordinators, a really good example would be the Philadelphia Eagles 2 years ago, losing the Super Bowl and losing guys like Shane Steichen, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not the end of the world. It is unideal, but it's truly something I wouldn't worry about until we have all the facts. And what I mean by that is, let's wait till after the offseason, or just rather, sorry, I'm trying to share the screen here. Let's wait till the end of the offseason, or at least, when these guys ultimately leave, if they do leave, and let's see who Dan Campbell hires in the meantime. So my point is, I'm taking all this with a grain of salt. I could see very easily a world where Ben Johnson's the head coach for the New England Patriots. Aaron Glenn's the head coach like the New Orleans Saints, Jacksonville, what have you. But until that actually happens, I don't really want to get too much into it. So on the screen here, we kind of used to do these a month ago. I've got an article here on prideofdetroit.com. They're going through the Vikings versus Lions stock report, 12 movers after division clinching win. And this is from Hamza Buchach. Sorry, I can't say that. Hamza Pod. You see it on the screen here if you want to go check out his Twitter or this article here. But I don't know, man. I've done a couple of film studies It's still early. It's only 4 o'clock here in Florida. I might make another Lions film study. They're not really doing well. I know people who watch my Lions film videos enjoy it, but they're not really doing well. So I wanted to at least get a Lions video out to you guys. Jameer Gibbs just had a crazy game, and he's got stock up. Jameer Gibbs, 23 carries, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 catches for 31 yards, and his fourth touchdown. Jameer Gibbs, and this was once again, not to keep reusing this word, that was my whole ethos when David Montgomery went down with that injury a couple of games ago is, look, man, Jameer Gibbs, if this was like the NBA, that's a lottery pick. This is a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft 2 years ago. And I always use the comparison because he always gets compared to Bijan Robinson. And, honestly, my thought process would be when Montgomery was brought in from the Chicago Bears and Jameer Gibbs was drafted in the first round, my first thought process was kind of immediately like what Atlanta ultimately ended up doing, where Bijan's the dude. He's your future star running back, kind of already is a star. And Tyler Algier, the guy who was a beast for the Falcons the year before Bijan got drafted, would be the complementary piece. And I thought that would be how it would be with Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. But honestly, it's been a very equal share. And it's because David Montgomery is also a freaking beast. These guys are studs. So the rumor is David Montgomery is hoping to be back for this divisional game. I would imagine even if he is, you're going to see limited snaps. But I got to say, and everyone agrees, what we've seen from Jameer Gibbs has been phenomenal. Another stock up, you got Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson. I made a film study on Amik yesterday, both on Will Upton and here, if you guys want to check that out. But Terrion Arnold as well had a really good football game. I always love saying the stat from that Vikings-Lions Sunday night football game a couple of evenings ago is Aaron Glenn played man coverage at 66.7% of defensive snaps. Aaron Glenn played 66.7% of single man coverage during Sam Darnold's dropbacks in that Vikings game, which is crazy in theory, not in retrospect, because they just shut down every single member of the Minnesota Vikings and made Sam Darnold look very mediocre. But my point is, Carlton Davis has that jaw injury. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., the rookie, has that hamstring injury. Emmanuel Mosley has not been healthy really at any point in his 2-year Detroit Lion tenure. It's crazy that two of the studs of that football game were Terrion Arnold, who in the first 2 months of the season was dealing with, he's just an aggressive dude. And I feel like the refs are kind of finally giving these guys the benefit of the doubt, which was, Terrion Arnold had huge issues with pass interference or defensive holding or whatever it was. Terrion had a lot of issues in the first 2 months. He was still playing really good defense. I said this in our Lions video yesterday. JJ Watt said that the hardest position outside of the quarterback is being a defensive back in the NFL. And I'm not a defensive back in the NFL or a quarterback, but I can definitely understand why that is. But I've always said it on this channel. Whether we were talking about, some of these safeties, Kirby Joseph, Brian Brenton, and maybe not really necessarily those guys, but Ennis, if he comes back, and Terrion Arnold is, look, man, once these playoffs start, you guys aren't rookies anymore, and it's time to step up, and that's exactly what Terrion Arnold did, Amik Robertson, and honestly, the whole defensive Detroit Lions, any defensive member in that whole football game against Minnesota showed up in more than enough ways. All right, some stock downs. We got Graham Glasgow here. Glasgow had a rough start to the night, particularly in run blocking. The offense struggled to get things going on the ground. When they ran in Glasgow's direction, they would find their groove as the night went on, but it was a bumpy performance in what would be an up and down season for Glasgow. Interesting. Stock up, Alex Anzalone. We did a film study on him on Saturday night, right before he came back for your Detroit Lions. I was hopeful that he got elevated from the take this in out. He got elevated from IR. And the thought was he's probably going to play because he's Alex Anzalone, but they still want to make sure with the doctors and the medical staff that he's going to be good to go. And he had 7 total tackles, a pass defended, and a quarterback hit. Alex Anzalone was all over the field in your victory on Sunday Night Football. And The difference he made is huge. Maybe I should do another film study of Alex Anzalone just based off that game because he is a huge difference maker. All right, real quick hits. Stock up Levi Onwuzurike, Christian Mahogany, Hogan Hatton, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta had a phenomenal end of the season. Al Qadim Muhammad also had a phenomenal end of the season. So did JMO and a lot of these guys. Stock down, Jared Goff. Came back down to earth after an MVP level run the last month and a half. He had two pretty bad interceptions and almost a third that a clear path for a defensive touchdown. Aside from a handful of costly throws, he was really sharp on the day, but those handful were not pretty. Totally agree with that. Just kind of a reaction to that article over on proudtodetroit.com. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Lions content, and we'll see you soon.